In the shadowy corridors of corporate Japan, where tradition and secrecy often eclipse transparency, one man stumbled upon a billion-dollar lie that had been festering for decades. Picture this: a British executive, handpicked to lead a venerable optics giant, flips over a stone and finds not just worms, but a writhing nest of financial deceit so vast it threatened to shatter the company's legacy. This isn't the plot of a thriller novel. It's the real story of the Olympus accounting scandal of 2011, a tale of hidden losses, audacious cover-ups, and a whistleblower who refused to stay silent. What began as risky investments in the bubble economy era spiraled into one of the largest corporate frauds in Japanese history, exposing the fragility of even the most respected institutions. Olympus Corporation, founded in 1919 as a microscope and thermometer maker, had evolved into a global powerhouse by the late 20th century, renowned for its cameras, endoscopes, and medical equipment. By 2011, it commanded about 70% of the world's market for gastrointestinal endoscopes, a lucrative niche that generated billions in revenue. But beneath this polished facade lay a financial rot that traced back to the 1980s and 1990s, when Japan's economic bubble inflated asset prices to unsustainable heights. Like many Japanese firms, Olympus dabbled in speculative investments, pouring money into stocks, real estate, and other high-risk ventures through its financial subsidiaries. When the bubble burst in the early 1990s, these bets turned sour, leaving the company with massive unrealized losses, hundreds of millions of dollars that executives couldn't afford to report without tanking the stock price and eroding investor confidence. To conceal these wounds, Olympus executives turned to a notorious Japanese accounting trick known as tobashi, which literally means flying away. This involved shifting bad assets off the balance sheet to dummy companies or funds, effectively making the losses vanish from public view. Starting around 1998, under the leadership of then-President Masatoshi Kishimoto and Executive Vice President Hisashi Mori, the company began parking these toxic investments in offshore entities in places like the Cayman Islands. They used complex financial instruments, such as high-interest loans and overvalued asset transfers, to mask the deficits. For years, this sleight of hand worked, allowing Olympus to present a picture of financial health, while the hidden losses ballooned to an astonishing $1.7 billion by the time the scandal erupted. The deception didn't stop at mere hiding. It evolved into an even more brazen scheme in the 2000s. As new accounting rules in Japan and internationally began requiring fair value assessments of assets, meaning companies had to mark investments to their current market value, the pressure mounted. Executives feared that revealing the old losses would destroy the company, so they devised a plan to extinguish them through a series of acquisitions where they could bury the costs. The most infamous was the 2008 purchase of British medical equipment firm Gyrus Group for about $2 billion. On the surface, it seemed like a strategic move to bolster Olympus's medical division. But the devil was in the details. The company paid an eye-watering $687 million in advisory fees to obscure firms like Axis America and Axam Investments, based in New York and the Caymans. This fee was extraordinarily high, over 30% of the deal value, compared to the industry norm of 1 to 2%. In reality, much of this money was funneled back to cover the hidden losses, with funds circuitously routed through various entities to make it look legitimate. Other deals followed suit. Olympus acquired 3 small Japanese companies, Altus, Humalabo, and NewsChef, for inflated prices totaling around $773 million despite their questionable value. These firms, involved in unrelated businesses like recycling and face cream production, were quickly written down in value after purchase, allowing the excess payments to absorb the old investment losses. Investigators later uncovered that these transactions involved kickbacks and intermediaries with ties to organized crime, adding a layer of intrigue that blurred the lines between corporate malfeasance and outright criminality. The web of deceit was so intricate that it involved forged documents, secret bank accounts, and a network of complicit advisors who pocketed millions for their silence. Enter Michael Woodford, the unlikely hero, or villain, depending on whom you asked in Tokyo boardrooms. A 30-year Olympus veteran, Woodford had risen through the ranks in the company's European operations, turning around struggling divisions with his no-nonsense British pragmatism. In April 2011, he was appointed president, and by October, he became CEO, the first non-Japanese to lead the company in its 92-year history. His promotion was seen as a bold step toward globalization, but it would soon prove fateful. Just weeks into his tenure as CEO, Woodford received an anonymous tip about irregularities, prompting him to dig into the Gyrus deal. Alarmed by the massive advisory fees, he hired PricewaterhouseCoopers to investigate. Their report, delivered in August 2011, raised red flags about the payments and the obscure advisors involved. Undeterred, Woodford confronted Chairman Tsuyoshi Kikukawa and Vice President Hisashi Mori in private meetings, demanding explanations. Their responses were evasive, laced with cultural allusions to loyalty and harmony, hallmarks of Japanese corporate culture that often prioritize group consensus over individual scrutiny. Tensions escalated when on October 1, 2011, the Japanese magazine Facta published an exposé titled Olympus's Dangerous Foreign Acquisitions, detailing the suspicious fees and linking them to potential Yakuza involvement. Woodford, now convinced of foul play, pressed harder, even writing letters to the board outlining his concerns. But instead of investigation, the board turned on him. On October 14, 2011, in a hastily convened meeting at Olympus headquarters, Woodford was unceremoniously fired, ostensibly for cultural differences and management-style clashes. He was given minutes to clear his desk, his company phone confiscated, and escorted out like a common thief. What followed was a whirlwind of defiance that turned an internal dispute into a global spectacle. Fleeing to London for safety amid fears of retaliation, rumors swirled of Yakuza threats. Woodford went public, leaking documents to the media and alerting regulators in Japan, the UK, and the US. His revelations ignited a firestorm. Olympus's stock plummeted 81% in the weeks following his dismissal, wiping out nearly $7 billion in market value. Initially, the company denied everything, labeling Woodford a disgruntled ex-employee. But the pressure from investors, including foreign shareholders who owned about 30% of the stock, became too intense. On November 8, 2011, Kikukawa, Mori, and auditor Hideo Yamada admitted to the fraud in a press conference, confessing to the tobashi schemes and the use of acquisitions to hide losses dating back to the 1990s. Kikukawa resigned as chairman, and the board began to crumble. The fallout was swift and severe. Japanese authorities, including the Tokyo Metropolitan Police, the Securities and Exchange Surveillance Commission, and prosecutors, launched investigations. In February 2012, Kikukawa, Mori, and Yamada were arrested on charges of falsifying financial statements and aggravated breach of trust. They pleaded guilty, revealing how the scheme had been orchestrated to protect the company's image during Japan's lost decade of economic stagnation. The probe uncovered that the fraud had involved at least 13 executives over 2 decades, with meticulous records hidden in plain sight. Olympus itself faced penalties. In 2012, the company was fined 700 million yen, about $9 million, by Japanese courts for filing false reports. In the US, where Olympus had listed American depository receipts, The Department of Justice imposed a $22.8 million fine in 2016 for violating the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act related to bribes in Latin America. Though tangential, it compounded the damage. Woodford's saga didn't end with vindication alone. He sued Olympus for unfair dismissal, settling in June 2012 for £10 million, about $15.4 million, one of the largest such payouts in Japanese history. He also ran for reinstatement as CEO, but withdrew amid board opposition. His book, Exposure: Inside the Olympus Scandal, published in 2012, became a bestseller, detailing the cultural clashes and ethical dilemmas he faced. The scandal prompted soul-searching in Japan about corporate governance. In 2015, the country introduced a new stewardship code encouraging more active shareholder involvement, and companies like Olympus adopted outside directors to prevent future insular decision-making. Yet, the scars lingered. Olympus's reputation took years to recover. By 2013, it had sold off non-core assets, including its camera division, to focus on medical equipment. Executives received suspended sentences. Kikukawa got 3 years suspended in 2013, reflecting Japan's lenient approach to white-collar crime, which drew criticism for being too soft. Shareholders filed lawsuits, resulting in settlements totaling over $100 million. The affair also highlighted the perils of Japan Incorporated, where lifetime employment and hierarchical loyalty can foster cover-ups over accountability. This scandal reminder that no company is too prestigious to fall prey to greed and deception. From the dizzying heights of economic bubbles to the depths of hidden ledgers, it exposed how one outsider's courage could illuminate the truth. As the credits roll on this corporate drama, one question lingers. In the boardrooms of tomorrow, will transparency finally eclipse the shadows of the past?